Team Coaching Circle was created almost a year ago as a learning community for practitioners in the field of team coaching. And in fact, next month in September, we're going to celebrate our first birthday. So it's a bit of a milestone, 12 months in this wonderful community. In a way, September is going to be a very exciting month. We're going to introduce new partnerships and new ways to engage with team coaching community. One would be with our member, Dr. Sebastian Fox, Seb, hi, who is with us today. He's a researcher in the team coaching field. So through this partnership with him and his team, we will have an opportunity to contribute to a research project in team coaching field. So very exciting opportunity ahead of us. We will also are kicking off a collaboration with the Global Institute of Team Coaching Supervision in September, and we are going to start offering a supervision labs for both group and one-on-one setup. So it will be offered as a pilot, free of charge. So hopefully it will be of help to you and for the new ways, essentially, for us all to connect, grow, and deepen the practice. So I think that we are landing well, and I'd like to shift the gear and move into today's session. So we are joined today by very special guests, Paul Barbour and Lucy Widdowson, who are 2 of 4 co-authors for a book, Becoming a Team Coach, the Essential ICF Guide, which was co-written with Jonathan Passmore and Katerina Canalido. Hi, Paul. Hi, Lucy.
Hello.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Lots of familiar faces as well. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to have you on this call. So let me very briefly introduce you to the community. So Paul is executive and team coach, certified business psychologist, and author with over 20 years of leadership experience. While Lucy is executive and team coach, director of the Performance Edge, and lead tutor on team coaching in Henley Business School. Lucy was also one of the global subject matter experts who was involved in developing ICF team coaching competencies. So no better people to join us today and talk through the ICF Essential Guide of what it is to work on becoming a team coach. The book was launched last year and very quickly became a very practical resource for those who are practicing in the field, and especially for those who are preparing for advanced team coaching credential with ICF. Just a bit of a teaser, Lucy and Paul will come back to Team Coaching Circle in November because they just launched in second edition of their own book. So they will come back again to this community and we'll talk from that perspective in a few months' time frame. Absolutely delighted to have you, Paul, Lucy, with us today. And I would like to open the conversation with the question of the day. What becoming a team coach mean to both of you?
Lucy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, happy to. So I'm absolutely passionate about team coaching. And actually, I got a really piece of deep insight in a couple of months ago when we were actually working with the team and we were sharing sort of our lifelines. And I shared about my early childhood where there was a lot of conflict at home. And actually one of the members of the team sort of said to me, "Oh, how does that play out then in your adult life?" Wow, I was like, wow, that's a brilliant question. And actually, that gave me a really big insight into one of the reasons I think why I do team coaching, because there was this conflict at an early stage, is I think it's so important to me because the opportunity to help others, connect, collaborate, have some of those difficult conversations they need to have, is very much, my purpose really in helping, teams, organizations to collaborate better. So it was a really insightful question from that team member, and it definitely led to some deep reflection for me. So that's where it sort of come from. Paul, I'll pass to you.
Yeah, what it means to me is a big part of who I am as a person. I spent 20 years working in a company called Kerry Group, And I remember it being my first ever experience of coaching. This executive coach asked me, "Who are you?" And I said, "How long do you have?" And 30 minutes later, he went, "Wow, that's complex." And what I was talking about was where I grew up in Northern Ireland or the north of Ireland or the province, whatever you call it. Even the fact there's different names tells you a lot. And I explained all that, and they were quite blown away by this complexity in terms of identity. And for me, I just have this deep belief from where I grew up that human beings can do much better at collaboration. And I see that every day in where I live. And I still live in the north or Northern Ireland, whatever you call it. I don't mind. And I just believe we can do much better in terms of how we collaborate. And I guess for me, team coaching is an avenue into that. It's a way I get to express that work in my day in, day out work, which is a real privilege. Sometimes worry about am I doing enough in terms of geopolitics and everything else, but you have to just work with that dissonance sometimes about how much we can do. So yeah, so it means an awful lot to me, and it's a real privilege, a real privilege.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much for sharing. And why don't I pull the agenda for our conversation today to get us started?
Thank you. So a very brief agenda, but we're going to do a little bit of exploring around becoming a team coach and really thinking about, obviously there's a lot about the competencies within there, but often team coaching is about us and ourselves, and well, at the core it is. So we're going to explore more about that, and then within the competencies we're going to draw out and talk about one of the key areas around how do you really shift ownership to the team, within team coaching. So we were going to explore that. And then there'll be an opportunity for you to have some breakout time for some discussion and then some Q&A. So Paul, I'll pass back to you to
Thank
start
you.
having a look at what's beyond the competencies as well.
Okay, so this first bit we want to talk about is a couple of things a couple of topics we're going to cover. And the first one is this idea of beyond team coaching competencies. I guess we're always not worried, but concerned about becoming so focused on competencies and losing what we believe on the right hand side of the screen is what we believe is absolutely vital. So in the book, chapter 6 to 13 talk about each of the competencies and goes into them in great detail from a very practical point of view. And if anybody wants to detail on those, or the ICF website, type in ICF website team coaching, and there's a great document there that details those very in great detail. But what we think, if you look at those competencies, it demonstrates ethical practice, a coaching mindset, establishes and trust, establishes and maintains agreements, which we talk about contracting usually when we talk about that, cultivating trust and safety, maintaining presence, listening actively, evoking awareness, and facilitating client growth. They're quite self-explanatory, and you read through the actual competencies, they're quite self-explanatory. But one area we believe sometimes doesn't come out strong enough is what is beyond that. And what we believe is beyond that is basically beyond frameworks, models, approaches, tools, techniques, is this idea of way of being, the way of being of a team coach. And Carl Rogers, a quote from Carl Rogers, which I always love. Carl Rogers talked about 1961. He said, when discussing a client-centered therapy and talking about being, we are talking here about something at an experiential level, a phenomena which is not easily put into words, and which, if apprehended only at the verbal level, is by that very fact already distorted. So Lucy and I are very conscious when we talk about way of being. In chapter 15 of becoming a team coach and our previous work as well, we talk about this thing that Carl Rogers talks about. You have to be very careful talking about it because it's a spirit, it's an essence, it's something much deeper. So just the following slide, I'm just going to talk about a little bit about what do we mean by way of being. And the competencies do touch on way of being in a very gentle way, but it doesn't call out that actual terminology throughout the competencies. So there's four things or four areas that we talk about in terms of way of being. And what I'm going to invite you to do, just in the chat, when I'm talking about each of these here, just to reflect and to think about it, and then to invite you to share in chat, what do you think is your way of being strength? And what would you say is your way of being development area? Or it might be way of being strengths and development areas. So the first one to talk about is these. We talk about the four C's, and Lucy and I, when we were writing, first came up with 12 C's, and then we had a innovation. We were sort of backward and forward, and brought it down to four that we believe are important. And taking the Carl Rogers quote into mind, It's not perfect, but we believe it's enough of an hypothesis to actually work on to help people reflect on their way of being. We talk about connecting, and that connecting we talk about is actually connecting at a very deep level with ourselves, but connecting with other people and also connecting with the wider system that other people exist within. And that's about deep listening. It's about doing the work on yourself as well, and just having that being presence, being really deeply present with other human beings in a room or virtually. And it's it's going deeper, and some of the top tips we talk about in that are things like we believe very powerfully in terms of the doing one-to-ones with as part of our work before we get into a room with any group of with any team. We like to spend time individually with each team member on a call, just about getting to know them and trying to explore the work that we're going to do together with them. But getting to the session in a good time, the venue, everything, and this idea that everything we do as human beings is communication. Everything we say, everything we don't say, who we spend time with, who we don't spend time with, we're always connecting. We're always connecting. And we put a lot of emphasis on connection at the start of all of our work. At the start of any session, we make no apology. And we talk about research that shows the better you connect is the longer you live. And there's brilliant research around that, which we love talking about. Confidence, we talk about this idea of owning your own story. Really, really, Lucy and I were privileged to have a professor at Henley years ago, Professor Alison Hardingham. She used to talk about falling back in love with yourself again. And this idea of falling back in love with yourself in order to do the work, that means owning your scars, owning your different things, and believing it's okay for me to be in this room. It's okay for me to do this work. And having that deep sense, not never overconfidence and not underconfidence, but this deep ease of being in the room. And again, that feeds into presence as well. And then courage, we talk about this idea of planning and letting go, of being emergent, of being courageous in the moment with the team. Obviously, contracting for that as well, but just being really, really courageous in the moment with the team. And in terms of like, yeah, and that takes, and different people have different journeys with that. And then continuing the last one, we talk about this idea of the humility to keep learning, that we're never the finished article. Lucy and I recently, in the last probably 8 or 9 months, had our toughest work together in terms of a team session. We're reflecting on that and supervision and since, and we're talking to the organization. And it was tough, like, and as soon as you think you've learned enough, you've never learned enough. It doesn't exist. We're always continually learning, and pushing ourselves out at the edge. And um, you know, personally, in the next few months, I'm going doing a breathing course, then I'm doing a course in neurodiversity, and I just want to keep on learning all these things that basically are going to help push my learning edge and how that impacts the work. So I'd like you to invite you to share and chat. What do you think is your way of being strength and potential development area? And when you're just doing that, I'm going to ask Lucy, what would you say to that, Lucy, if I was to ask you that question?
Thank you. So I would say strength is probably around the connection, building rapport, creating psychological safety. Um, for me, probably the development area is probably around courage. And when I think about courage, that recent really challenging team coaching situation we were in, Paul,
Yes.
I had a big learning from that, which is actually I had a really strong physiological response in the moment. I had this massive churning in my stomach going on. It was really tense, and there was a lot of resistance in the room. And probably in hindsight, what I should have been doing was being courageous about what was going on inside me. In that moment, I completely didn't think about sharing that, which of course we do in coaching, don't we? We do in teams, but I think in the almost the resistance in the room led to perhaps some physiological tension, which almost stopped me, got in the way of me tapping into what was going on inside and actually sharing that. So I think continuing to tapping into that courage and listening to what's going on in yourself, both physiologically as well as cognitively. So, and what about for you, Paul?
Oh, and I'll share in this. You just keep on sharing in the chat. That's lovely. Thank you. There.
Yeah.
I would say connecting deeply with other human beings and with the team would be a strength. And the continuing part for me is the bit that I really, really, 2 years ago, I was saying courage and been working on that. But the continuing part of, keeping myself at the learning edge. And for me at the minute, neurodiversity probably is the thing that's really, really on my mind. What is it to build, this idea of what does inclusive actually really mean? And I think some of the example we're talking about, even with that team, some of that was a play within that as well. So that's the part that really is pushing my learning edge right now. That this whole area of neurodiversity and what that means, and it's something maybe we can explore possibly in November actually as well. We could possibly come back to that as a possible topic, but it's just an area that's really close to my heart personally, but also for the work with teams right now. And I think there's not much written about it or talked about it in the team coaching context. So yeah, that's where I am. So in the chat, let me just take a wee look here and we'll just see. Thank you for sharing, everybody. So connection, development area, confidence, connections. A lot of connection is strengths. Again, courage, connection, developing confidence. Okay. And actually, when we do this work and we ask this question, we get courage and confidence coming up quite a bit. Um, Strength, courage, and development is continuing, so the learning. So, way of being, strength, connection, development area, courage again. Okay, being comfortable with the emergent process. And we always say being, planning, but planning to let go. And funny, actually, Lucy and I would reflect in this in the team coaching partnerships we have. It's like yin and yang. Sometimes I have one team coaching partner who's so planned, and I'm a little bit opposite to that. And it's just, even that as a team is a really great learning in terms of how we do that together, which is fascinating. Strength development area, okay, connection and then continuing. Counterintuitive, but courage development area, confidence, and then continuing, and then courage is a strength. Okay, courage, strength, and strength is development area, courage, and then strength, connection, and confidence. Thank you very much. I'm going to show you one more little box that might help with this here as well. It's gonna appear on the screen now. And this again in chapter 15, it appears in the book. It appears in our own books as well. And again, an hypothesis in terms of a model, but we've got a lot of feedback where people have found it very useful. And we talk about way of doing and knowing, and then we talk about way of being at the bottom. So way of being I've already talked about, and the way of doing and knowing. So doing is your skills and things like that, which the competencies are quite heavy on, a lot of that sort of skill set. And knowing then things you should know about, areas of expertise we should know about. And we talk about if you're very high on doing and knowing, and we talk about being a professional team coach. We talk about if you're very high in your way of being, and maybe not as high in the other two. We talk about a relational team coach, very relational. And we talk about then if you can blend both of those, that's what we believe is a transformational type space. You're tending to the core competencies, you're tending to you're well up in your areas of knowledge, and you're getting this being part as strong as possible. And in the developing team coach bottom left hand box, this idea if all of that is lacking a bit, and the reality is at times things happen in the room whereby we can actually feel like we're a developing team coach, no matter how many years experience what we have. And the reality is we're always jumping around these four boxes. And that's just something to reflect upon. So again, we're not saying this is one thing, you exist in one box. We're just saying that basically we believe that, hypothetically, we jump around these four areas, but to be transformational, you really have to focus on your way of being and attend to the doing and the knowing of team coaching as well. So Lucy, I'm going to hand over to you for the next bit, and then we're going to ask you to reflect on all of this here in breakout rooms.
Okay, thank you. So when we were writing obviously about the competencies, one of the sort of key areas that came up, and certainly some of you I know are supervisors as well, but one of the key themes I seem to keep coming up in supervision from supervisees is this challenge of how do you really let the team own the dialogue, and the difference between facilitation and team coaching, and also how to know when to move in and out of the dialogue as well. So we thought we'd explore that today. There's loads of experience in the room, so please share as we go through. We'll share some top tips as well, but we'd love to hear from you as we move through. So when we look at the ICF competencies, and obviously there is also lots of signposting to these within EMCC and AC as well. When we look at those, there are some areas that we sort of draw out within the competencies that really speak to this area of letting the team own the dialogue. So within establishes and maintains agreement, there's this whole piece around how do you partner with the team leader to determine where the ownership is. And that's amongst the team leader themselves, amongst you as the team coach, and amongst the team. So where is the ownership within that and the dialogue of that? And we'll talk about some of these in a more depth in a moment. Then within cultivates trust and safety. We've got the whole piece around how do you promote effective communication to happen within the team. Within maintains presence as a team coach, how do you know how to move in and out of the team dialogue? Within listens actively, how do you encourage the team to own their own dialogue? And then within evokes awareness, how do you challenge the team to challenge their own assumptions, behaviors, and meaning making processes? So that's sort of a signpost just to the competencies. But we were going to move into a little bit around top tips. So I'd love you to share as well in chats, because you'll have lots of ideas around that. Moving on then to really think about then some top tips. So absolutely the contracting piece of it, so important, as you'll all know. Beginning, throughout, constantly recontracting. Where do you want to go as a team? One of the key pieces that links in with competencies is then about contracting around the roles as well. And I don't know about you, but whenever we ask, what is it you want from us? Often the team say, oh, we want you to challenge us. And actually we go back saying, well, yes, absolutely, we can do that. However, we also want you to be able to do that for yourselves. So what does that look like? And how can you do that? And really getting them to articulate what would that look and feel like, and what are the behaviours that they would see from each other, and what needs to be in place for them to be able to do that. So lots around contracting, how you're going to partner, how you'll create that safe space. And when you look at the competencies of that whole piece around, it's been much more of a guide rather than directing. If anything else around contracting, there's so much more, because it's such a massive area. But anything else around top tips around contracting, please do share. Or Paul, if you have anything else, just share as we go through.
Yeah, the one about the continually contracting, and I always contract really specifically. So what this means in terms of you owning the dialogue, this is what it will look like and sound like. And it means that, when I ask the question, if say we're connecting, I'll actually say to people, I'm going to make you a request that you do not look at me when you're speaking this back. I'm going to pull my chair back a little bit. I want you to really talk to each other. So being really, really specific about what that looks like behaviorally. And it can feel a little bit awkward, socially, of not making eye contact, but really, really encouraging the teams physically to actually engage with each other. So, and getting out of the way, which can be quite weird at the start when you first start to do it, but it's quite empowering when you keep practicing it. So contracting really specifically is what I'd always say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that leads into the next one, actually, around embracing the discomfort of becoming less us, leaving our own egos out, which is it ever possible to do that? But, really thinking about how can I do less of that, and allowing the team to become more. And Paul, as you say there, in terms of the contracting piece, almost then stepping out as well. Yeah, absolutely, Seb, and Peter. I'm not sure where it came from, ABC, but I know Peter said, I think it may have come from, but it's really helpful, isn't it? Always be contracting, absolutely, and constantly recontracting. And like in coaching, if you don't know where to go, speak to the team, ask the team, where do you want to go? What's important to you? So keep doing that. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And that embracing the discomfort piece as well as, really think about how can less be more. So how can you allow the team to just start asking themselves questions? Maybe, you need to start off the process in terms of maybe ask them a question at the beginning, and then let them have the conversation, let them have the dialogue. And we see this as a big tension sometimes, I think, when team coaches are learning what does team coaching look like versus facilitation. David talks about, and empowering the team to own their own dialogue, and almost stepping out of it. And the difference between almost passing the ball to the team for them to then have the dialogue versus you asking individuals within the team on their thoughts. So rather than saying, Carl, what do you think? Matthew, what do you think? Kate, what do you think? Literally asking the question and then passing it over to the team, and trusting them that they've got the wisdom to come up with their own solutions as well. And David talks about the flip chart marker tip. I don't know if any of you have come across it. I know Tony will have done. Or Kate, you have as well. But yeah, David talks about, the minute as a team coach, you pick up that flip chart marker, you're moving back to facilitator. And I like the analogy of just thinking about, actually, am I taking the baton back here and taking control, or actually have I really giving it to the team and allowed them the time to do that? So yeah, I like the idea when he talks about that. Oh, we've got more. Tony talking about contracting as an emergent process. Create the right energy when the team don't know you. Connecting the team's development process. Yeah, so that whole conversation up front, and the contracting up front, often I'm sure as you do, we'll get the team to articulate it and then capture it somewhere. And it can really be really helpful then for the team to come back and be their own mirror and reflect on where are they within that contract. So just moving into then last couple of pieces. So allowing the team to be their own mirror. So many of you, I'm sure, have used that analogy of the balcony and the dance floor. So, the dance floor is the work of the team when they're having those conversations, and asking the team to go and stand on the balcony, looking in on how they've been together and think about, so where's the effectiveness of the conversation been? What's been helping? What's been hindering? What are the dynamics that may have been helpful or unhelpful? And getting them to think for themselves about what they've been observing. And once they've done that, then only after they've already explored for themselves might we then also add in some observations if we think that's needed or helpful for them. Any other top ticks? Oh, Kate, have held the marker a few times and then put it down quickly. Yes, absolutely. So it's just a good tip, isn't it? Just to think about that, or suddenly we're holding the flip chart, and actually saying, "Oh, actually, here you go. You take it over now." And then the last one, just thinking about there, was just then about we talked about in the book of when we might move into the dialogue could be if the team have been having a whole conversation and almost not thinking about the wider system. So at that point, you might invite them then to maybe, bring the wider system in. It could be a customer chair, a chair that represents a customer, and invite them to go and sit in that chair. It could be the generation of tomorrow. It could be stakeholders. It could also be, getting them to think about their own long-term needs as well. So we're inviting them into that chair, or it could be, that could be the question. What does the system need from you? What does the future generation of tomorrow need from you? Or if they were to go into that customer's perspective, what would the customer be saying is the conversation the team need to have at this point? So that might be a time when you're moving into the dialogue to get them to think more widely about the system and the perspectives of the system. Okay, so we wanted to hear from you just on the next slide. Thank you, Egle. So when you think about then letting the team own the dialogue, what's your stretch? What's your stretch then in letting the team own the dialogue? Paul, what might be your stretch?
Probably, I love talking about human psychology, and as you know, and I love storytelling, and it's trying to make sure like getting out of the way of the team type thing. Just because there's something I think could be useful from a psychology point of view, it's just getting out of the way. I'm quite good on the contracting part of it for it, but just trying to become less so the team can become more is probably the mantra I keep on saying. How do I keep on becoming less so the team can become more is probably the challenge I keep working with. And storytelling and psychology are my weak points, as you know.
Areas of passion.
Areas of passion. Areas of passion.
So I'd love to hear from anyone else and verbally, if anyone wants to share verbally rather than in chat, and then we're going to have an opportunity to go into a breakout.
I think we've had some sharing during when you were speaking, so maybe yeah.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, letting go of the need to direct the team towards an effective dialogue. I'm sort of the other end of it. So I probably maybe stay out sometimes too long on occasions when actually because I really want to, be generative and I've got probably a challenge going on thinking, oh, I don't want to be directive. And then I stay out too long and think, well, actually, maybe they've been circling for perhaps longer than I perhaps should have let them circle for. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Seb. Um,
Lucy, mine would sometimes be the observation, offering the observation too quickly, because it's really something really good has happened and you're going, has everyone seen it? Has anyone noticed it? And
yeah.
offering that in whilst maybe I could have taken a back step and let somebody else see it or hear it. So I do have to check myself with the big observation piece.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Lovely. And Brendan, being comfortable in a silence or the team moving into an unusual direction. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes that's, you just see then the light bulbs open up, don't you, when that happens. But it is holding that silence, isn't it? And Anna, when the team becomes too detailed, yeah, to bring them back to the bigger picture. Yeah. And that can be that piece of then bring them back to that long-term piece or the strategic piece. And I've certainly had that a lot where then teams get into the detail and then they end up in loopholes and going down rabbit holes as well. So bringing them back. Emma, yes. Afraid of interfering with the emergent process. Yes. Not interfering if they go off track, but giving space. They very often correct themselves, which is a much deeper insight. Yes, I mean, and actually, David, I really resonate with that. So I once had that where I probably held this discomfort about 45 minutes of them circling, and then I was thinking, this is too long. I haven't stepped in. But at the end of the 45 minutes, they then went, we know exactly what we're going to do now. And so it was a good lesson for me because I was thinking, oh no, I think I should intervene. But so yeah, it's knowing just it's hard to know, isn't it, when to move in. So Paul, I think we were gonna get everyone the opportunity to go into a breakout.
Yeah, so the question we have, just bring it up on the slide now, and the question we have is, what does becoming a team coach mean to you? So we've been sharing today about what it means from us from the very, very start of, part of our being type thing, but also this idea we talked about way of being in terms of this idea of, developing our way of being, but also doing and knowing are important as well. And we've been talking about owning the dialogue, picking it out. We believe these are two key areas that we think we're involved a lot in team coach education. And these are two areas that we spend a lot of time on, the being of a team coach and also this idea of letting the team own the dialogue. So it might be another topic that you have in your mind, it might be something different, but just like you to answer that question, whatever way you want to answer it, what does becoming a team coach mean to you? What has it meant so far? And what's the future direction? What's the future challenge for you in terms of your development and learning? So whatever you want to take out of that question, we're very happy for that to be the case. And we're going to do breakout rooms of about 4 people. Um, Egle, how long do we think we'll do? Would 8 minutes be enough? Just conscious of want to leave some time for questions at the end. So a couple of minutes each. And what we maybe ask you to do is basically actually just take a minute now before you even go into the breakout room. One of the favorite things we love talking about is collective intelligence, the idea of thinking individually first before we speak. And often we just rush into conversation. So just take a minute now before we open the breakout rooms just to think of that question. What does becoming a team coach mean to you? Whatever comes to mind. And then we're going to ask you to share that in the room that you're in. And then we'll hear some feedback when you come back into the open space again. So just take a wee minute now before we open the breakout rooms. So we would love to hear some voices. And we're going to ask just if one person from each room can be prepared to share a common theme or an insight from the discussion without breaking any confidences of what was being talked about within your room. And also, if you want to share anything in chat personally, please feel free to share anything in chat personally as well about and what does becoming a team coach mean to you. So, yeah, so no particular order. I'd just love to hear from some others. Matthew, yeah, Sebastian,
We didn't nominate anybody, so I'm
it's okay.
self-nominated.
That's okay. That can work too.
Being from Belfast originally, you can appreciate that. I mean. We had a bit of a discussion around whether it's the right thing to do to meet the group first or to meet individuals
Mhm.
before meeting the group. And I would be interested to hear your feedback on that. We talked about other stuff as well. But that was one of the kind of themes that we all kind of discussed. So that's just something I'd be interested in hearing feedback from you on that.
Yeah, listen, I think one of the things we do sometimes that we would go on to say a call and we'll do like a 15, 20 minute session about what is team coaching, what does the journey potentially look like. As part of this is going to be one-to-ones. So sometimes we meet the team as a whole and then start meeting people individually as a common way of doing it. Lucy, any comments on that in terms of
No, no. I mean, literally, I was with a prospective new client talking about a new team coaching engagement this morning, and we're talking about doing exactly that. So, meeting with the whole team, just talk about what is it, what might it look like, and then then move into more of the diagnostic phase with one-to-ones and Team 360, etc. So, yeah.
yeah, that's how we tend to approach it anyway. So,
Yes.
so you're always honoring the team and the team ethic and that part of that's where the work is at the team level. But the one-to-ones are just part of the journey then to learn what's going on. Yeah, Sebastian, yeah.
Can I make a general point? In fact, I'm not going to share what our groups are. Brendan, I know if you want to share, please do. But my general point is this: on this call, there are 23 people, so less you two and Egle, that's 20, and I'm fascinated by the fact that this is such an important topic, but the level of engagement is quite low. So that is not a criticism. In fact, it's a positive. The fact that everybody on this call is actually recognised that and is on this call. So it wasn't intended in any critical way of the people here. But I do find it fascinating that there seems to be a general lack of engagement, and I think this my experience who's here today is reflective of what I see elsewhere. There doesn't seem to be much engagement with what is such a critical topic. It's central to who we are and how we are as team coaches, but it doesn't seem to interest people. I just find that fascinating.
This idea is specifically, you mean the becoming part? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's I guess it's sort of head versus heart, isn't it? And it's like we're trying to encourage the heart piece. It's really, really central. Really, really central.
Yeah.
So completely agree, but sorry, I don't want to occupy any more space. My final comment is, I think that's on the coaching bodies. They focus too much on competencies, too much on skills, the doing, not the being.
Mm.
Yeah, and it could be controversial, us talking about a book, Becoming a Team Coach, which focuses on competencies, and we're talking about beyond the competencies. But I guess we feel the need to say that and to talk about that because there's so much talked about competencies that we need to talk about beyond that.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Yeah. Thank you, Seb.
Thank you very much. And James, is that I think handle?
Yeah, we had a good discussion. Personally, I love team coaching. It's a joy any day that I'm in front of a team or working with a team. We spoke a lot about relationships and just going from one-to-one to team coaching, the importance of building those relationships and creating the psychological safety in the room. Also, probably a stronger need or an even greater need for emotional awareness from the coach in the room, and just supporting the team in the direction that they want to go. Just lots of discussion around the relationships, the dynamic, the lots of moving parts within a team and how to manage that. But yeah, great discussion and comments from the four.
Thank you.
And just see if you have any comments on that, or anything in your mind.
No, I think that was really helpful. I'm conscious of time, Paul, actually, because we'd love to hear from Anna and Caroline as well.
Yeah, go on ahead. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Well, we had a little bit of a experience sharing about where we stand at. So with us, it was ranging from somebody who is, let's say, pursuing the certification to become the ACTC, and somebody who already has that. We had the imagery between the constant growth on behalf of others, providing tools and letting them, however, take over let's say, decide how they want to use it, how to use the time together as a team. And Olena gave very beautiful imagery of being conductor of a very experienced orchestra, where everybody knows the music, everybody knows how to play, and they just need to pay attention to each other to play in tune, and you just help them to bring it into something that's beautiful sounding.
And it's a beautiful
So thank you,
metaphor.
Alina, for that.
Yeah, beautiful metaphor, which we would probably use at this point. So thank you. So that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'll go quickly, so as not to take too much time. I think we probably talked about team coaching as a journey. So we spoke about that individual the transition from coaching one-to-one to moving towards a team, and what that takes, for the individual. People spoke about their joy of working with groups and what drives them, and the curiosity and passion for working with groups of people and teams. And we also spoke about who we are as coaches, and comfort levels being the one in front of the room, or being one of more than one, being one of a pair of coaches or in a room, and the dynamic around that. And I suppose I'd probably summarize from our discussion that we're probably novice in that area, and it's figuring out how two coaches work together at the top of the room, or within the room, and owning your place in that.
Yeah.
Really, really key. I see that in supervision, where you have some supervisors that come as a pair, and for them to have that deep dive into not just what's happening individually, but what's happening in their own dynamic as well as them with the team and the wider system. Whoa. multi-layer. So yeah, really good one to pull out.
And Emer, you got a comment?
Yeah, just really quickly. We spoke a bit about our areas for development, with courage kind of being one of them, and that what we were talking about earlier, perhaps maybe not jumping in soon enough, making things going too long, or maybe jumping in too soon. So just where's the balance there, and just being comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you also need to be uncomfortable as well. So where is that balance? And we talked about the importance of self-reflection as well as a coach, and different assumptions we might have. And we talked a bit about, the competencies and framework, but also just being very comfortable in what's emerging. I think that was probably summarize it, but I don't know if anybody has anything else to add.
Yeah, love that. Becoming more comfortable with the discomfort, and it's fine. I do one-to-one coaching. I feel a level of comfort. When I'm going with a team, I can feel the discomfort, and it's becoming comfortable with that discomfort. That's okay, and it's part of it.
Yeah, and it's also, and I know we didn't talk about this in our breakout session, but it's kind of related when you're. I know, sorry, we're stuck for time, but you talked about contracting and how important it is, the ABC, and to always be contracting. But sometimes I find with certain teams as well, they'll still, if conflict comes up, they'll look to the team coach to kind of give guidance for them. So it's also that, I suppose, when we're talking about being comfortable with the uncomfortable, that is also, no matter how many times you kind of contract or maybe say, look, what the role of the team coach is from the outset, I still find in the moment of conflict, they tend to look towards you.
Yeah.
Really good point. Yes. Can identify with that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the wonderful contributions. And we could go on here for another period of time, and it's a challenge always with when you go to these deeper topics, the time required. But thank you so much for all of your contributions. Really useful. Thank you.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
benefit too. I'm going to hand over.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Lucy. And in the last minute or so, I'm curious. You've been wearing so many hats as educators, as practitioners yourselves. Where do you see, in broad strokes, where team coaching is evolving towards? What is the trending themes which you could highlight for the audience?
Lucy, we were talking about this last week. Do you want to share that?
Lots of things. I think one of the things we're seeing is, of course we're seeing AI, etc. But we're also seeing how can you really create sort of this team of teams, more systemic team coaching, collaboration, get multiple teams to work with each other, both inside and outside organizations. So we're definitely seeing more of that and more opportunity for that, I would say. So that's one thing I'm seeing. Paul?
Yeah, probably we mentioned earlier on neurodiversity, the piece of
Yeah.
like what does real inclusion mean like? And does that mean sometimes to be nearly exclusive, to be inclusive? And it's just, yeah, what does that mean? And the more we've talked about this with teams, and we asked the question, we do the one-to-ones, is there anything you'd like us to know that could be useful about, how you turn up? And we don't, and it could be neurodiversity, it could be bereavement, it could be illness, anything at all. And this idea of inclusion at a much deeper level. And it's just when you ask that question, people share things, and some of it's brought into the room, some of it's not in the room, but it's always in the room. And it just goes to a deeper level. So we're just starting to really think about what does it really mean to be inclusive when life is what life is. And yeah, and it's a wonderful topic, but a very deep topic.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. It's been such a insightful conversation today. It's been pleasure to learn from you, and I wanted to share with the audience. If you want to check the book, this is the link embedded into this QR code. This is where you can get it. Thank you so much,
Thank
Paul,
you.
Lucy.
Thank you very much for asking us, and it's been an absolute, and thank you everybody for your contributions. It's been a real joy for us. So thank you, Lucy, as
Yeah.
always. Thank you.
And if we're not connected, yeah, love to connect with people as well.
Yeah,
Just love the dialogue.
yeah.
So
Please, any
Absolutely.
other questions? Connect on LinkedIn. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And we'll have you back in November. So
Oh,
yeah,
looking
yes, that's
forward,
right. Yeah. So we
looking
look forward to
forward to
that.
that.
forward to it.
Absolutely. And just wanted kind of to spend last minutes or so very briefly sharing what's ahead of us with the rest of the group. So we'll have great sessions coming in September. We will be, as I was mentioning, celebrating Team Coaching Circle first birthday, and we'll have two special gatherings. So on the 8th of September, we'll be joined by Team Coaches panel with experienced practitioners, Caroline Duffy, Kate Rooney, who is on the call, Michael Cooper. They will explore the value of team coaching. And on the 19th of September, we will kick off a really exciting partnership with the Global Institute of Team Coaching Supervision, where we will run the first series of team coaching supervision labs, where the faculty of the Institute, Dr. Lisa Lewis and Craig McKinsey, are going to guide us through some of the team coaching reflective practices. And in October, we will be joined by Georgina Wustra. The session will be hosted by Emer Sweeney, who is on this call too. And we will dive into the magic of emergence with both of them. So really looking forward to connecting with you all in upcoming months. And if you want to claim ICF CCE units, please do find the form here on the screen. Thank you all for a great session. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Lucy. And have a great last week of summer and a great month ahead.